And yeah, once we get to 9:30, we'll get started.
Hang on.
Do we need, is the sound on it?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Good morning to those that have just joined. Just to let you know that obviously we're going to start at 9:30 sharp. So anyone else that's still just joining, we're going to give them the next 3 minutes to do so. Hopefully you can all see my screen. There was just a momentary lapse there where I think I lost screen share. But yeah, we'll give everyone else just another couple of minutes. I think there's 25 of us here at the moment. So yeah, we'll get started at 9:30 sharp. But yeah, thanks for your patience, and make sure you've got teas and coffees all good to go. Okay, everyone. It is 9:30 now, so I think if everyone's happy, we'll get started. So first of all, a massive welcome to our Wellbeing at Work forum. Obviously, things are a little bit different, maybe to the last time we had one of these. Some of you may not know me, so I'll just introduce myself. My name's Greg Price, Health Improvement Manager at the Wellbeing Team at Livewell Southwest. So I joined the team back in January, and I may have met some of you at the event that was organised over at Borrington Park at the end of January. And kind of amazingly so, that was the last event we had kind of like this, the awards and the conference event over there that was organised by colleagues Jenny and Charlie, who are in the kind of chat as well today. Obviously, a lot's changed over the last sort of 8 months for us all. And it's very good to see you all joining us today for what is our first sort of virtual Wellbeing at Work forum. We're keeping everything crossed that things run well. Things like Zoom chats and MS Teams are things that we've all had to get used to over the previous 6 months. And in a minute, I'll take us through just a few kind of housekeeping things that will hopefully enable the morning to run as smoothly as it can. But obviously, one part of today is the evaluation, which I'll talk about later, and it'll be great to hear from everyone at the end of the day as to how you think it went and whether there are things that you think could maybe be done to make it run smoother in the future. I'd like to thank everyone for joining. I'd also like to thank the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, who we're working with to deliver today's forum. They're hosting the forum on Zoom, which has enabled us to run it, and hopefully, obviously, the technology looks after us and enables the morning to run smoothly. Regarding the housekeeping, the few things to kind of help us run a little bit better, if we could just bear in mind that the chat function that you may see at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen will enable you to kind of contact either myself or any of the other organisers. You've got Jenny and Charlie with us both today. So if at any point you feel as though you need to ask a question or you can't hear us or anything like that, then just let us know, and we can kind of do our best to answer those questions. And obviously, unlike a kind of face-to-face meeting where normally, we'd be able to take questions probably quite freely, the way that I'd like today to work is if you have got questions, if you use that chat function and just pop the questions in there, we can save that chat from the Zoom meeting. We have got some time at the end of the morning to go through some of those questions if we've got time, but I am quite keen to kind of stick to our timings, which you can see on the screen at the moment. Hopefully, if we have got some time, we can go through some questions and answers at the end. But if we don't have that opportunity, then we will get back in touch with people after the event, so that way you get your questions answered one way or the other. We have got quite a busy morning. As you can see, after I've done just a little update in the next sort of 10-15 minutes, I'll be passing across to Jane Waite from Plymouth Options, who's going to be taking us through a sleep workshop. And with her colleague Lucy will also be taking us through a relaxation session. Unfortunately, the lady that was going to do some mindfulness isn't able to make it this morning. So that's a bit of a last minute change, but still something to kind of help us to relax and hopefully give us some things to take back to our places of work. Another member of our wellbeing team will also be joining us later, Andy Pratt, who will be delivering the alcohol awareness session. And like I said before, if we've got some time after those sessions, then we'll go through some Q&As, and we're hoping to be finished by 11:30 at the latest. So hopefully that kind of fits for everyone with regards to timings. It's quite a busy morning. Again, the first time we've done this on Zoom, so we can start to get a feel for whether or not it's kind of too long or not long enough. And again, your feedback will be gratefully received with regards to whether you think things were taking too long or not long enough. So yeah, we'll see how that goes as we move through the morning. A few other kind of obviously things which I think you're already on top of with regards to mics and cameras. Obviously, it's up to you whether you want your camera on or off. Hopefully you can all see and hear me at the moment. And obviously when I finish talking in a bit, I'll pass over to Jane and I'll mute my mic. But for those of you that obviously aren't presenting, I think as you already have, if you can keep your mics muted, it just saves for that kind of background noise. And again, we'll have to review that going forward as to whether or not we think we could start taking questions kind of over mics as well. What we obviously wanted to avoid is, everyone trying to talk at once. But yeah, I think that's everything for kind of housekeeping, and hopefully again you can see the agenda that we're going to move through this morning. So what I do next is just for the next 10 minutes take us through a bit of an update with regards to our own team and what's been going on in the world of wellbeing at work. This is going to be broken down into different sections with regards to a bit of an update around the Wellbeing at Work Awards, touching on some work that we've been doing, obviously, and most of you in the room today are either going to be working through maybe the Wellbeing at Work Awards or are going to be an active wellbeing champion. So I'll give you a bit of an update around what wellbeing champions have been up to over the past sort of 6 to 8 months since we last kind of saw each other in January. A little bit of information about training and where we are with the delivery of training, which has obviously been interfered with by COVID over the last 6 months. And then just a few slides at the end, taking us through some of the things we've got coming up and a few things that maybe we could all get involved in to kind of support our own well-being and also the well-being of our colleagues and friends and family as well. So yeah, let's drop into it. And so, like I say, first of all, a few slides regarding the Wellbeing at Work Awards. So some organisations have been fantastic at continuing their work around the Wellbeing at Work Awards despite the challenges that COVID has thrown up. And just a few slides to kind of congratulate just a few businesses that since the last meeting back in January have been able to achieve both bronze and silver. So ACE Schools, Plymouth City Council and the Co-op Plymouth LSC have all achieved their bronze award certificate over the last 6 months, and similar to earlier this year, and I'll touch on it later on, we're going to be having the event in January 2021 where we will be able to award those businesses with their certificates and sort of obviously celebrate the work that they've done. Obviously we've also had one business achieve the silver award, so the Plymouth Child Maintenance Group I think were awarded obviously their bronze at the event earlier this year and have since gone on to achieve their silver. And obviously what's also going on is there are a lot of businesses trying to achieve the next levels as well. We've got a good number of businesses moving towards their bronze, and the Plymouth Child Maintenance Group are also looking to move towards their gold as well. Obviously, if anyone wants any more information about the awards, at the end of the presentation, there's some contact details. And if you don't already know about the Wellbeing at Work website, it's kind of all on there as well. And get in touch with us and we can point you in the right direction. But again, I think most of you guys are probably aware of most of the bits around the Wellbeing at Work Awards. Something that has happened again this year, Jenny Jenkins, who I'm sure most of you know, has been working with both St Luke's and Plus around developing additional kind of continued excellence awards. So once individuals have been through the tiers, you know, bronze, silver and gold within the standard Wellbeing at Work Awards, they can work with these other providers, these other organizations around specific kind of add-ons to those awards to show that their continued sort of excellence and continued commitment to the well-being of their workforce. So those things are also available for those individuals that have achieved their gold award. And again, Jenny's been doing some fantastic work to continue driving the awards forward, and keeping in touch with Public Health England, who, despite have obviously been very, very busy with things over the last 6 to 12 months, have been able to continue to support and keep the sort of evidence base behind the awards up to date and current, really. So there's a quick update around the Wellbeing at Work stuff. You will also find on the Wellbeing at Work website some new working from home guidance. I mean, most of us today, I know some of you may well be in the office space, but over the last 6 months, we've all had to get used to basically working from home a little bit more than we might have done before. So we've got some really useful working from home guidance, lots of links to useful sort of like information. So it's well worth taking a look. Jenny's also developed some information for micro businesses. It's acknowledging that sometimes the content within that awards process might not always be applicable for businesses that maybe, you know, range from just a couple of people to maybe a dozen. And that micro business guidance, you know, kind of gives them a little bit more opportunity to find something that's applicable for them. And as we've already touched on, obviously COVID-19 has changed the world for all of us. So there's lots of information and guidance on the website around COVID-19 and how we can make sure that we're working in new, you know, efficient ways, despite the challenges that COVID-19 has put in our way. Wellbeing Champions is next. So most of you will probably have been aware that obviously last month we had the September challenge running. And we were, I suppose, when we first started looking at September earlier in the year, just sort of a little bit unsure about quite how it was going to go down and quite the reaction to the challenge, given again the challenges we've faced. Obviously, it's something that's run for a number of years here in Plymouth, but we were delighted to see the uptake. You know, from the moment that people could register their interest, we started getting you know, lots and lots of people putting their names forward, putting their teams forward and their businesses. And obviously, this is something we worked alongside Active Devon on, and Active Devon were the lead kind of partner on delivering this program. And obviously, thanks to the contacts that we've got with you guys out there amongst local businesses, we were able to get the message out. And you may have seen the email that came out from Active Devon yesterday with a bit of a kind of overview of some stats around how many people took part. And again, fantastic numbers, over 760 participants, you know, within 83 teams. And rather amazingly, I saw the stat of over 111 million steps were taken by all the individuals within the challenge. So a massive thank you to everyone that took part in September. A bit of a special well done to Claire and Susie there from Home Start for winning the September Wellbeing Champions Award. Again, that will be something that we'll highlight at the awards conference event in January 2021. But again, it was great to see people's sort of, I suppose, enthusiasm to get active. I suppose walking is one of maybe the few things we have been able to do over the last 6 months to stay active and maybe to kind of connect with people. And again, if we have found ourselves sort of maybe working from home more often, I think that challenge was something where we could come together as a team, socially distancing, of course, and go for a walk and enjoy the environment around us. I think, yeah, it's been a successful challenge. One of the things Active Devon are looking for, again, is feedback. I'll be sending these slides out after the event. So things like the links that you're seeing here, you'll be able to click on those. And what they're asking people to do for this one is just a quick 5-minute survey, just to get some feedback about how you think it went and whether or not there are things we could maybe improve on in future years. The other thing they're asking for, and the email address below is the one to get in contact with if you're able to help on this, is an individual that would be prepared to share their story of September. You know, if you feel as though it's sort of really made a difference to yourself, or you know someone within your team that, you know, it's really helped them around their well-being or, you know, their activity levels. They're quite keen to hear from people as soon as possible, really, around being able to share their story and maybe making a bit of a case study out of it. So again, when you get the presentation after the event, if you want to get in touch with Active Devon, you can do so via that email address and just contact them and let them know your experiences of September and the difference it's made. Wellbeing Champions training. Now this is something, again, for those of you that are Wellbeing Champions would have remembered having this delivered in person, face to face. But again, what we've been able to do is turn this into a virtual training session. It consists of an e-learning module, which is sent to individuals beforehand. Generally takes about an hour to complete, and the content is very similar to the content that people would have been completing if they'd been doing it face to face in the past. But in order to give it that little bit of kind of personal feel and that opportunity to work with the trainers, what they have after that e-learning module is an MS Teams kind of support session. And that just gives those individuals an opportunity to ask questions, for the trainers to take the individual through maybe some of the activities they would have completed as part of the e-learning module, and then take them through what are the next steps to become active wellbeing champions. So that's something that we've only started rolling out within the last month. We've had 17 individuals that have been trained so far through the virtual training for wellbeing champions. But obviously it's one of those changes we felt we've had to make because of the world we're kind of obviously operating in now, you know, where we kind of felt around training, it obviously still isn't really, you know, quite ready around, you know, bringing people together if the training can be delivered virtually, which is what we felt Wellbeing Champions could be. Kind of links nicely a little bit around our wellbeing training offers. And again, in the past, we would have had a good suite of training options that could have been accessed from a face-to-face point of view. Some of those training options still can only really be delivered on a face-to-face kind of basis, and I'll touch on those in a little bit. But in addition to the Wellbeing Champions training that we've already spoken about, what we've been able to do is work on understanding mental health and well-being as a virtual training, and understanding grief and bereavement. Things like Safe Talk Assist, mental health, first aid. We are getting closer to be able to deliver those either face-to-face or remotely, but we have had some challenges around sort of obviously the IT issues. Zoom, a lot of them are delivered on Zoom, and obviously it's only been, you know, today really with working with a chamber, we've been able to bring this to you. But for training delivery, we are still looking at different things we can do. Now, the other thing regarding Wellbeing Champions is we're starting to develop a community Wellbeing Champion program. This is likely to launch in 2021. It's just for awareness, really. It'll work in a very similar way to the Wellbeing Champions program, apart from the fact we're looking to work with volunteers that are already within organisations. So to give you an example, one of the organisations we're hoping to work with is Age UK, where they've got a group of volunteers that would benefit from that skill set, and then would be able to roll that out within the community. I am aware of the time, and as usual, I've been blabbing on longer than I should have done. So I'll move through these last few slides and then I can pass over to Jane. So a few things coming up. Most of you are probably aware that on Saturday, 10th of October, it's Mental Health Awareness Day. And I think this year, more than any year, it's just so important to get involved and do what you can. Popped a couple of links in there, some kind of obviously UK-based organisations, give you an overview of some resources and things they're doing. But there's lots going on, and I'd urge you all to kind of get behind it and do what you can within your business, business. And then also what we've got going on this month is Stoptober. I've seen some stats to show that more people have quit smoking this year than for quite some time. So obviously it's something about, you know, the COVID that's maybe kind of motivated people to quit. Use the Campaign Resource Centre to kind of find resources and information about what you could be doing locally. And don't forget, obviously, our own local offer, One U Plymouth. We've got clinics running throughout the week, evenings and weekends as well. They're offering virtual clinics as well as telephone support. And we've seen ourselves get really, really busy in this last few months. So again, talk to colleagues, talk to friends and family. And if you know there's someone that wants to stop, then send them to us. Last few bits from me. My apologies, Jane, for going over. We've got a few events coming up. I've mentioned already, we're hoping to deliver the 2021 Wellbeing at Work conference again alongside Devon and Plymouth Chamber, so it'll be delivered on Zoom. We've already got Public Health England to agree to come along and deliver us a presentation as well. So save the date, January the 28th, 10 to 11:30. More information will be coming out from us soon regarding kind of join-in links and a bit more information about the content. And then obviously we've also got our forums planned for 2021. the 3 dates there. So again, get those in the calendar. And again, stay in touch with us. Give us information if you have particular things you want to see, whether it's training information. Stay in touch, send us those case studies, and we always enjoy seeing the kind of examples of the work that you're doing. So yeah, a few contact details. Myself, it would be great to hear from you direct if you've got any sort of like feedback or you've got any experiences you'd like to share. And there's the generic kind of Wellbeing at Work email address as well. Like I said, we will be sending the slides after the forum, so you should get those in the next day or two. But keep up the great work and please do stay in touch. Okay, so thank you all for that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop my screen share and I'll introduce you to Jane Waite. So Jane is from Plymouth Options and she's kindly agreed to deliver a sleep workshop for us this morning. So my apologies, Jane, for chipping into your time a little bit there.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I knew it was inevitable. I always talk too much. But yeah,
I'm exactly the same.
Bless. I'll pass over to you and I'll
Thank you.
mute my mic and yeah, I'll leave you to everyone else. So.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name's Jane Waite and I work at Plymouth Options, which is the anxiety and depression service for Plymouth. My colleague Lucy also works for us and I hope she's going to put her screen on in a minute. If you haven't heard of Plymouth Options, as I say, we're the service for anxiety and depression. During COVID, we were still seeing clients, although most of it was either over the telephone or via video chat. We are now actually open to seeing clients face to face if they prefer to do that. Any more information that you want about Plymouth Options, please do get in touch with myself or Lucy. I see you've all got your, I'm also a wellbeing champion, as is Lucy. I'm very proud to be one, really enjoy that role. I can see you've all got your mics off. So I'm now going to try and share the screen. Like most of you, this is very new to me. I've not done anything like this before. So do please forgive any technical hitches. I'm all right at knowing my stuff and chatting about my stuff, but I'm not particularly great at the technical side of it. So I'm hoping that any minute I'm going to be able to share some sort of screen with you. Right. I don't know if anyone, can somebody just put their mic on and tell me that they can see that?
No, Jane, I can't see anything.
You can't see it?
Just you.
I know there was a slight delay with mine, Jane, so it might be that it appears shortly.
Right.
On your screen it shows you sharing, yeah?
Yeah, I can now see what I'm trying to share with you.
Okay, hopefully it will pop up in a bit. Mine did take a little while to
Yeah,
to
sometimes
appear.
it does take a little while, Jane, to load up on everybody else's screen.
Right, okay. We'll give it a couple of seconds then. And to be truthful then, I've no idea what to do. I do apologise if it doesn't.
Don't worry, Jane, I'm sure it will appear in a minute. I was having a panic this morning as well when mine first didn't appear, so don't worry about it.
Right, okay.
What I might try and do in the background is, because I know you sent me your presentation, so
Yes.
I might see if I can open it on mine as well, and then at least we've got a few backups there.
Okay, thank you. I'm guessing nothing's happening.
Olivia, I know you've got it as well. Are you in a position where you're able to get it on the screen?
Yeah, I can try and load
Oh,
mine up.
bless, thank you.
Oh, it says Lucy's sharing her screen.
Lucy's got, oh, well done, Lucy. I did it so well yesterday when Lucy and I were practicing. Thanks, Lucy. Right. Are we ready to go, Lucy, now?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everybody. As I said, already a hitch. So I hope the rest of it goes according to plan. And also, if there's any questions that you need answering, please do, or anything that you would like to add, please do put in the chat bit, although I can't actually see that chat bit, but I'm sure something will happen to help me with that. And if there's any questions that you do have that we're unable to answer in this way, please don't hesitate to send myself or Lucy an email. So welcome to Sleep Well and Feel Well. Certainly at the moment with COVID, etc., I'm sure lots of you have been experiencing disturbed sleep. It's very common. So hopefully with some of the things that we're going to be able to tell you today, we'll give you some advice and some tips. There may be some things that I say and that Lucy says that you already know. Do forgive us for that, but sometimes it's nice to know that you're correct, and hopefully there'll be at least one thing you might be able to take away from our session today. I know that Charlie has sent you already some of these forms, the registration forms, that you also have some questionnaires. The PHQ is a depression questionnaire and the GAD is an anxiety questionnaire. I'm inclined to say unfortunately here, because I know that form filling is a bit of a pain, but we are required by our service and the commissioners that these forms are completed by attendees. That way they know that we're delivering what they're commissioning us to deliver, and we can deliver those workshops for free. The registration forms, as you've seen, have your details on. These forms will be emailed, if you don't mind, to Lucy, whose email address is there, lucythomas4@nhs.net. It's only Lucy that will see those questionnaires. We will input them onto our system at Plymouth Options, and it's only us that will be able to see them. We're not registering you as clients or anything like that, but as I say, unfortunately, it's just a process that we have to go through. If you're uncomfortable in ticking some of those questions on the health questionnaires, do just put not all the way down, you know, that way we still will be able to put them onto our data. Again, any questions around that, any uncertainties, any concerns, please do contact either of us and we'll try our best to allay any fears that you may have. The other one is the family and friends test. People who work for Livewell will be very familiar with what we call the FFT. We need to ask all of our patients and clients that we see to complete one of these, but any of you that have had any care at all provided from the NHS, whether that's Mount Gold, Derriford, your own GP, physio, podiatry, any service that has been NHS, you may well be familiar with receiving these either at the surgeries, at the hospital, and sometimes on a text or in an email. And again, these are required by NHS England. I hope that has explained those for you okay, but as I say, please do contact us. There's confidentiality at the bottom of that, and we always have that on our slides. When we're in a big room, people often share things, and we like to say, you know, what we said in the room remains confidential among us. I'm sure that I don't need to explain that to you guys here, as we're all professionals, and it's a very different forum as well, so people aren't actually speaking about their own situation. Okay. Oh, you've got to share it, haven't you, Lucy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is now what not working.
Oh my God.
There you go.
You've got, okay. Yeah. We offer lots of courses at Plymouth Options. They were in our group room we have in our nice modern building. We obviously haven't done those for a very long time. We're hoping to start them again if this kind of format works. And they're psychoeducational, so basically they just offer a bit of awareness and understanding about the symptoms of anxiety, depression, low mood. That will include sleep, of course, and as well as tools and techniques to help people manage the symptoms, and then again any information appropriate and any support that's available. So keep eyes and ears open. If any of that changes and we do start our courses again virtually, then we can let you know, and how people can, how your patients and clients can access those. I'm ready. Okay, the aims of today, amongst trying to get the tech right, is to understand sleep, the sleep cycle. We'll give you some sleeping tips, which will include a diary, which Charlie sent you on an email, and obviously that will be explained later on during this presentation. And then, you know, looking around things that we do that can be helpful, and certainly a lot of things that we do that we think are helpful to a better night's sleep. We can look at exploring them, and something that's very interestingly called sleep retraining, which when I first saw that, I thought, goodness me, what is that all about? And certainly in a little while's time, you'll find out. So there are our aims of today, and hopefully that's something that we will have delivered by the end of the workshop. So, types of sleep problems. Getting off to sleep is probably one of the most common problems that people have. You're tired, you're ready for bed, you're sat there, you can't wait to go to bed, your eyes are nearly falling asleep, or you may have fallen in sleep in front of the TV. You get into your lovely warm cozy bed, boom, wide awake. Very difficult to get off to sleep. As soon as we get into that bed, things start coming into our minds, things that have happened during the day. We may go over conversations. We may start thinking and worrying about what we're doing the next day, how the sleep workshop is going to go, and all the technology. I certainly had a little bit of problem last night. Very normal and very common. A lot of the things that we will be talking to you about today are very common problems. Anxiety and depression, stress, low mood, they are quite common problems, sadly. However, we start to look at and start to treat people when those common problems start to affect the way we live our lives, that our world starts to get smaller, and we will help people with their sleep once it starts to really become a problem and interfere with their lives. Staying asleep. You may well get into bed, you fall asleep, something disturbs you, a noise outside, a noise in the house, your teenager coming in late from a night out, although not so much these days, so that may have helped a bit. But staying asleep can be a problem, and as soon as you've woken up, boom, that's when all those thoughts start coming into our minds. Waking up too early. And sleeping too much, waking up too early. And when I say too early, I'm looking around about 3, 4, possibly 5 in the morning. And that's generally a symptom of low mood and depression. People with low mood and depression can very often get to, I do apologise, anxiety, get to sleep not too bad. But they're waking up too early is a sign of depression and anxiety. Sleeping too much is certainly a sign of low mood and depression. People like to close their eyes, go to bed, shut off the world to try and get away from whatever it is that's causing them distress in their lives at the moment. And again, the quality of sleep. You may get into bed at a reasonable time, have your 7 to 8 hours, but that sleep is disrupted on and off throughout the night. However, remembering these are common problems, we'll have all experienced these from time to time. It's when you're experiencing these for more than 2 weeks or more that the same thing is happening and you're really struggling. It's then starting to affect your waking life. Okay, Lucy? Possible reasons for poor sleep, you know, obviously we're a service for low mood, anxiety, depression and stress. So there will be the first things that we're looking for. And very often poor sleep is a symptom of rather than the problem itself. So when we're treating people for anxiety and depression, we will be looking at what's causing that anxiety and depression, but treating the sleep as a symptom rather than the problem itself. Shift work is a difficult one. I was a nurse many years ago, and trying to get to sleep after a night shift was sometimes almost impossible. And to be perfectly honest, I'm really not sure what the answer is to that one. It's a difficult one to assess. Age, it's very common that as we get older, we certainly need less sleep. If you're somebody who's used to a really good 8 or 9 hours, and as you've got older, you're not getting anywhere near that. Sometimes it's the worrying about our sleep that's more of a problem than the sleep itself. Pain, it's such a shame that Rachel couldn't make it today with mindfulness. Mindfulness is a really good way to manage pain, certainly to help with sleep. Going to the loo, that's a biggie, isn't it? An amount of, as I've got older, I've noticed that I need to wee much more in the night. And I don't know about you, but I lay there hoping that it will go, and it doesn't. So my advice in needing to go to the loo, just get up and go, because it won't go away. You get a tummy ache if you don't go. But needing to go to the loo is also going to disturb your sleep. Sometimes we can get up, go, get back into bed almost zombie-like, but quite a lot of the times that need to go to the loo will trigger that awakeness, and there you go, all your thoughts will come back in. Your surroundings and your environment. It may be unfortunate that you live in quite a noisy area on a busy main road. Neighbours are quite noisy. You might live in a house with lots of other people in a block of flats. And those things, again, are quite difficult to work with and assess. If we're looking at sleep as a treatment on a one-to-one basis, all of these reasons for poor sleep, we will explore much more. We'll go into much more detail and find out many more questions about what's happening for that person, so that we can pinpoint and look at each of those individual reasons for poor sleep. And again, sometimes it's just about our routine and lifestyle. We can easily get into bad habits, or habits that are unhelpful. Certainly through COVID, I adopted some habits that were unhelpful to my sleep. And I guess that can come into environment. So that normally at a time like this, I would ask other people if they could share any reasons that they might have for poor sleep. But whatever yours is, it'll be common and natural and normal for you. And hopefully some of the things that we're going to talk about today, when Lucy will give you tips on how to manage your sleep, you'll find helpful. On to the next one, please, Lucy. Okay, something that you may or may not know. When we go to bed and get into bed and start that sleep, we go into something that's called the sleep cycle. And as you can see, that's 5 stages. Usually that stage will take around about 2 hours. So through a night, you're looking at doing that stage maybe 2, 3, 4 times to get your 6-8 hours sleep. You'll recognize the first one. It's as you get into bed that you're tired. I call it that woozy feeling when you're just trying to get off to sleep. You're in that stage between awake and asleep, and you can feel your body starting to relax. Very often that you can be disturbed during that stage just by a noise or somebody in the house, which makes it difficult sometimes to get back into that stage. We generally should be falling asleep within about 20 minutes. And that's the stage 2. By the stage 2, we should be in after 20 minutes. Later on, Lucy will give you some advice. If you don't fall asleep within that 20 minutes, you're very unlikely to. And there are some things that we can suggest that you do to help that. Stage 2, as you can see, you're sleeping, you're disengaged from your surroundings, your body temperature will drop, your breathing will start to slow down, you'll start to relax, your heart rate will become more regular. And a really good example of that stage is looking at a baby or a young child sleeping. They really are relaxed. You can see it in their face. You watch their little tummies going up and down. You know, that's the type of sleep that I think we all might like to enjoy again. Once you're in that stage 2, you'll move then into the sleep where your brain activity becomes a little bit slower. Not very pleasant to be woken up in this stage. You might feel groggy, and you'll notice that more if you nod off during the day. And you have about an hour or an hour and a half sleep, and you wake up or you're waken up for some reason, it's not very nice. You've got that sort of horrible groggy feeling. And the advice is, if you do, generally try not to go to sleep during the day, but if you do need to sleep, either go for 20 minutes, and some of you may have heard of what we call a power nap, where you go for that 20 minutes, or you need to have the two hours so that you're going through that stage of sleep. Next stage, your hormones are released. So sleep is really helpful and useful to us, to repair us, to look after us. If we're physically unwell, you know, we go back to bed when we're not feeling physically very well. The reason for that is our body's repairing, it's looking after us. So we need that rest and we need that relaxation. It's also a time that if any of you have teenagers, you will notice that they're sleeping much longer. And you may have had those arguments with them as to why they're still asleep at midday, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't give them too much of a hard time. There's been research done around this by Dr. Winston, and teenagers need that sleep. Their bodies are growing, their hormones are changing, and it's an important stage for them. And lastly, the REM sleep. Again, I'm sure that's something you may all be common with. If you're looking at someone who's in that REM sleep, you'll probably notice that their eyes are flickering. You know, their eyelids are really flickering and going for it. And it's often the stage that we're dreaming. And again, as it said, it's providing energy to the brain, it's supporting the body so that we're getting ready for the things that we need to do during the day. We all know that when you've had a bad night's sleep, to try and perform any task the next day can be difficult. And that's why it's important for us as practitioners that we question and ask around people's sleep, especially after if they've had that poor sleep pattern for a couple of weeks and their daytime performance, they're getting forgetful, they can't stay awake. We'll be looking at what's happening around their sleep. We're generally dreaming as well in that stage of sleep, which is why it's very common that, and this happens just before you wake up, it's getting ready for you for the day ahead, which is very often why we can remember our dreams, because they're happening just as we wake up. And then again back to stage 1. And as I said earlier, you'll go that step takes around 2 hours. If you're woken in any of those stages, it will cause disruptive sleep. We do also wake up very regularly during the night, many times during the night, but sometimes we don't even notice we've woken up. That might be the time that we go to the loo, but we do wake up, maybe stir twist around, move position. So it's very common to wake through the night. What's less common is when that waking is very disruptive to our life the next day. Okay, Lucy? Again, how can we get ourselves ready for sleep? And generally things that will be helpful to us throughout the day. Again, normally, if I was in a proper classroom situation, I would be asking questions around what people find unhelpful or what they might find helpful to do. Most of these I'm sure you know, so I hope you don't feel like I'm preaching. Alcohol in particular. When I was a young girl and would go out and about, I could have a few drinks, get into bed and not move till about 10 hours later. I'm finding as I've got older, alcohol is very unhelpful to me with my sleep. It raises your temperature, and that once that sugar rush has left your body, that's when you can start to get restless. It also will cause you up and down again to go to the loo or to need drink. Eating a big meal just before you go to bed, it takes around 45 minutes or more for our food to be digested. So if you're going to bed on a full stomach, your body's busy working at digesting that food, which will interrupt your sleep pattern. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that going to bed on an argument or having worry, and again, later on, when Lucy takes over, she'll help you with how to manage your worry. Caffeine gets our adrenaline going. You're never going to sleep if you've got adrenaline in your body. You need to be looking at trying to relax. As soon as we've got adrenaline, our brain's telling us that we need to do something, we need to get going, we need to fight something, we need to run away from something. You're not going to be wanting to do that as you're trying to get some rest and relaxation and go to sleep. Difficult if your partner has a different routine, or people that you live with in the house may work early, work late, work nights. That's certainly unhelpful. When you wake up in the night, please don't look at the clock. You don't need to know the time in the middle of the night. What that will do is you'll look at the clock and you'll say, oh my God, is that the time? I've got to get up soon. You may look at the clock and say, oh, how lovely, I've still got a few hours. But you really don't need to be looking at the clock. If you are someone that's a clock watcher, turn it round. Other unhelpful things, and I think Lucy's going to be talking about that later on, is about how to get your environment better, and that's your TVs in your bedroom, your telephones, looking at your telephone, having your telephone on next to your bed. Your bedroom is for sleeping, and it's nice to create that environment. I won't go on too much about that because, as I say, Lucy will. And nicotine, smoking. Again, smoking can affect adrenaline, and you'll find it difficult to fall asleep with adrenaline. There's probably many more unhelpful things that we can add and that we can talk about. Things that can be helpful. Grandma may have told you this, a warm milky drink. It actually can be helpful to people. Milk contains a chemical called tryptophan that will work with with the chemicals that help us to relax. They work together and can be helpful to having a good night's sleep. It's not just an old wives' tale. However, if you're allergic, you don't like milk, or it's going to make you wee even more. But you know, some of these things for some people may be helpful. Exercise is an interesting one. If you are somebody that likes to exercise during the day, I've noticed that there's been a particular study recently that found exercising at 7 a.m. in the morning may shift your body clock to earlier, so that you'll feel much more alert in the morning and get up feeling a bit more alert and tired. You'll be tired earlier than in the evening, so it has the potential for priming you to get some good sleep. And if you do the same thing the next day, the other thing about exercising is certainly not a great idea to exercise just before you're going to bed. It will raise your body temperature, speeds up your heart rate, and will stimulate your nervous system. So exercising too close to bed may interrupt your sleep. So generally around about 2 hours before you're going to bed, but certainly better just before during the day. Screen-free nights can be helpful, at least 2 hours before you go to bed. A lot of our devices emit something that's called blue light, and that blue light interrupts the sleep hormone, the melatonin, as you can see, by almost a quarter. So that's a good percentage of the night. If you're sitting up in bed looking at your screen before you try and go to sleep, it can have the potential to interrupt your sleep. My son, when he was living at home, he was experiencing awful sleep. I eventually found out that he sat in his bed like probably most of our young people, and I don't, you know, us older people too. He took my advice, which I was greatly surprised about, kept his phone out of his bedroom, and his sleep certainly improved. And again, a lot of the things that we are telling you and that Lucy will tell you shortly, they may not work for you, but give the things a go. Something that you may not have thought of might work for you, and you're going to be changing possibly a habit and a pattern that you've got into, and habits take an awful long time to change. So it's about just keep going with these things. I can't see any of you, but if you just fold your arms for me as you would normally fold your arms, you're very used to doing that. You probably don't even have to think about the way you fold your arms. However, if I ask you to change how you fold your arms and do it the other way, I'm doing it now, it's a bit awkward. You're not used to folding your arms the opposite way round. You're changing a habit. And that's a very simple example of how changing a habit works. If you continue to fold your arms in a different way, you'll start to get used to it and you will have broken that habit. As I say, maybe a bit of a simple example of how changes work, but you can physically feel how that is when you try to change the way you fold your arms. So some of the things that Lucy's going to tell you, they may take time to work. I've noticed that there's 3 questions in the chat, or 3 things in the chat. I'm just going to have a look if there's any questions there that I need to answer, and it doesn't look as though there is. So now, thank you for listening to me. I hope some of what I've said made some sense, and I'm now going to give you a break from my voice and pass you over to my colleague Lucy.
Morning, everyone. I am wary of the time, so this is going to be a bit of a whistle-top tour. And if you have any questions, please do email or put them in the chat. You should have a sleep diary that was emailed to you. I'm not sure how I can share that, so I'll leave that to you. What we aim to do is, very often we'll say that we're having awful night's sleep and it's repeated every night, that sort of thing. What a good thing to do is keep a diary of how much you're sleeping. So on the sleep diary, it will say about what time you got up in the morning, what did you do during the day, what time did you go to bed, how long was it before you fell asleep, all those sorts of things. And it's really, really good to see it on black and white. And then you can see if there is a pattern emerging. So yeah, definitely have a go at that if you're struggling sleeping. And it also looks about how much you're waking in the night. I wake every night, yeah. And sometimes it feels like I'm awake for like an hour, when in fact it's like only like 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, and it also looks at things that you do just before bed, like Jane mentioned, some of those unhelpful things that we do. So what we're going to do is look at worry time. Like Jane said, try not to go to bed on an argument or when we have things to worry. It's really difficult. Now, when I was first introduced to this, I thought, this is never going to work. But over time, it does work. But it does take an awful lot of practice. And you need to be practicing this every day. So if we have worries, number one, record our worries. So during the day, any worry that might pop into your head, I want you to write them down on a piece of paper, okay? And then focus on something else. You know, go back to work and focus on your work, go and get a coffee, focus on that, so that we're kind of just postponing those worries for now, okay? And then what we're going to do is plan a worry time. So this is a time that we set aside, roughly to start with, about 20 minutes. And we want the same time every day, okay? So please do not do this just before you go to bed, because else those worries may still be there. And then they're going to keep you awake. So good time is before dinner, maybe. So we set this time, 20 minutes, okay? And then once we're there, okay, you need to settle yourself down, look at your worries, and we need to work out the hypothetical worries and the practical worries. Oh, I am sorry. I'm in a presentation. Bye. Right, no, I've totally lost it. Let's have a look.
You were talking about hypothetical and practical worries. So
my biggest worry at the moment is a practical worry that I had a phone call during this presentation. So what we need to do is work out the hypothetical worries. These are the worries that we can't do anything about. So, for example, these are the things that haven't happened yet. So I might go out to the car in a minute and I might sit here and think, oh my God, what if I've got a puncture? I need to go out this afternoon. So that's a hypothetical worry because it hasn't happened yet. So a practical worry would be when I do go out to the car, I have got a puncture. And the practical worry is that you can actually plan and make a plan to actually do something about it. So if I go out there, fingers crossed I don't have one, but if I do, I can go out there, right, and think, right, plan of action, what am I going to do? Okay, so more than likely, I'm going to phone the RAC and get them to come out and change my tyre for me. Okay. And then once you've finished your worry time, you have to stick it to that 20 minutes. Any other worries that you have after that time, I want you to keep them, yeah, and you'll go through them tomorrow. And you'll find over time that the 20 minutes, you're not going to need 20 minutes. We're going to get it down to a lot less. So like Jane said, the environment, the bedroom, okay? The temperature. What we need to do is reduce the temperature by a degree or two than the rest of the house. Because what we do is we get into bed, we've got this nice big thick cozy duvet on us, okay? Our temperature does drop a little whilst we're sleeping, but the duvet keeps us nice and warm, Okay. Also, keep your bedroom tidy. All right. What we're trying to do is make this into a bit of a haven. Okay. A tidy space is a tidy mind, they say. So if you can reduce the amount of stuff you have in your bedroom, not lots of piles of washing, books, TVs, all that sort of thing, that would be really helpful. Let's make it a bit of a haven. And then the bed. How many of us will have a mattress for years and years and years? And it's about changing your mattress. I think it's every 8 years now. Okay. To counteract that, you can always turn the mattress over every 6 months, 6 to 12 months, and that may help. Also, light. They recommend that you go to bed in complete darkness. And also they do recommend that in the morning that you let some nice natural daylight in. There's also noise. It could be noise outside. It could be the dogs barking. It could be the wind. It could be, especially with the recent storm. And also white noise around the TV being on standby and it making that noise, your mobile phone. Right, sleep retraining. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to retrain our brains with sleep. So we're going to get ourselves into a routine. When we have little children, we get those into a routine, don't we? So we calm down the play, maybe have a bath, maybe have a nice milky drink, story. So gradually as time's going on, everything's calming down. So what we need to do is exactly that, okay? Maybe screen-free time, like Jane suggested. That helps calm our mind. Nice milky drink if we can. A nice warm bath. And then pop ourselves into bed. If you're not asleep within 20 minutes, like Jane said, what you need to do is get up. I know this sounds strange, but actually get up out of bed. It's better than lying there tossing and turning. And then go into a quiet room, okay? If you're really not sleepy, maybe read a book, nothing too exciting to aggravate your mind too much. And then when you're sleepy, go back to bed and then try to get off to sleep. If you can't sleep after 20 minutes, it's just a point of repeating this and repeating this. And then over the matter of a week or two, you've retrained your brain and you then should be able to go to bed, go to sleep, okay, and then sleep for a while, at least, hopefully, for the entire night. But like Jane said, there are reasons that we do wake up in the night. So don't go to bed until you're feeling sleepy, which can be a bit difficult. Bed's only for sleeping, okay? If you're not asleep 20, 25 minutes, get up out of bed and keep repeating it. Also go to bed at the same time every night and get up early each morning at the same time, because this then programs your body into, you get up and then come bedtime, you're already tired because you've been doing it the same, and you get into that routine that like 10:30, always bedtime, and then you'll start to get sleepy, and then there's more chance that you will go off to sleep when you get into bed. And also no napping. Naps during the day are really, really not helpful at all. If you can, try not to nap. I don't know how many people do nap, and like Jane said, if you do, we're looking at 20 minutes or the 2 hours to get through one of those. Okay, and just keep practicing. It's getting yourself into that routine. And we've got some other resources here. Plymouth Options. Anybody can refer to Plymouth Options. Like Jane said, we're the local depression and anxiety service. And there's our email address. Plymouth Online Directory is full of information, as I'm sure you know about that one anyway. And also, getselfhelp.co.uk. This is something we use with clients, and it is what it says, get self-help. And it's got like little booklets that you can work through. They do depression, anxiety, lots and lots of other subjects. And so does the Northumberland NHS self-help guides. Anybody can access them free of charge, and they go through a whole range of subjects as well. And then Jane's going to do some relaxation for us now.
Yeah, just before I do that, I've just noticed on the chat that someone has said that some of the devices have an option to turn off the blue light. Does this help with sleep, or is it a gimmick? I'm not sure about that option, Laura, but what I think using phones is more around, and Greg's put something to that effect. It's just about looking at our phones, looking at mostly social media, reading stuff on there, and perhaps having, I think they call it fear of missing out, that we're seeing what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is having a great life, having possibly great sleep, and that can affect the way that we think about things just before we go to bed. Oh, and then there's another question. What do you suggest when you work shifts, going days and nights into the same week and getting into a sleep routine? I'm just going to ask Lucy, would that sleep that you've just, I've forgotten what it's called, we've only done it a few minutes ago, retraining sleep, does that help for people who do day and night shift and then have to work during the day? I'm guessing that it probably does, having a sleep training.
Yeah, I would say that it definitely does. And then eventually your body will get used to your day shifts and your night shifts. Yeah, but this is going to take a little bit longer, I would imagine. So when you're on your day shifts, get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time. I'm hoping that you don't do a day shift and then a night shift, or a night shift and then straight into a day shift on the same day, or even the next day, because that is going to make it a little bit harder. But yeah, definitely, if you can't sleep, I did nights a long time ago, but trying to sleep during the day can be really difficult. So, you know, making your bedroom that haven and having it as dark as possible and as quiet as possible, as much as you can. I understand that, you know, most people are up and around and about during the day. So maybe earplugs, something like that. But
blackout curtains are brilliant.
But it is going to take time for your body to get used to your day shift and your night shift. But do keep trying this retraining, and over time it should help. Okay.
As Greg said earlier, we've got some links that you can see on this slide, and I understand that he's going to be sharing today's presentation, so you'll be able to click through to those links. So I'm going to do a little bit of relaxation for you now. If you can obviously keep your I keep losing my thoughts now. Keep your screen off and your monitor, your talking thing off. If you're sat at a desk, it might be worthwhile just to move away from your desk at this time to get yourself into a comfortable position. If you're sitting in an uncomfortable chair, it might be, if you're working from home, you might be able to go and sit somewhere more comfortably. I know this is a sleep workshop, so if you're tempted to go and have a lie down on your bed, please do so. No one can see you. And we'll just look at some very brief relaxation. But as you can see, there's a link there for you to click on to look at some more information about relaxation for sleep, and also perhaps Google some mindfulness. Okay, so I'm going to look at something that's called progressive muscle relaxation. Relaxation is a skill and it doesn't come easily. And I know that some people find it very, very difficult to relax. Please don't get distressed if you feel that relaxation isn't working for you. Like most treatments that we offer, whether that's giving medication or doing some physio or having some therapy or having some relaxation techniques, not all treatments work for everybody, but do try and have a go. And if it's you're really finding it difficult to relax, then please don't stress yourself by trying to think that you have to do it. Progressive muscle relaxation can help reduce the stress and anxiety in your body. When we become tense, when we worry, and if we're worrying about our sleep, your body will become tense. You'll feel it. The most common place that you'll feel tension is in your neck and your shoulders, and possibly in your back. So if you're sat down and lying down, wherever you are now, and if you're joining in, please just notice what your shoulders are doing. Are they up around your ears? If so, relax your shoulders. You will immediately notice the difference. If you're clenching your fists or you're sat folding your arms or with your legs crossed, just relax your body, unfold your arms, notice the tension by just relaxing your hands and your arms on your lap. Have your feet, if you're sat in a chair, have your feet placed on the floor with your legs slightly apart. With experience, you will become more skilled at this. If you have any injuries or any pain, do skip some of those areas. The idea is to pay special attention to the feeling of releasing tension in each muscle. If you're comfortable to do so, and if you're at home alone, do close your eyes. And if you just begin by taking a deep breath and notice the feeling of the air filling your lungs, and do just hold that breath just for a few seconds. Release the breath slowly and let the tension leave your body. Take in another deep breath and hold. Again, slowly release. Try now to take an even slower breath. Fill your lungs and hold the air. Slowly release the breath and imagine the tension is leaving your body. Move your attention to your feet. Begin to tense your feet by curling your toes and arching your foot. Hold on to that tension for a moment. What does it feel like? Release that tension. Notice the difference. Holding that tension in your foot and then releasing it. Notice that relaxation. Focus on your lower leg. Again, tense the muscles in your calves. Hold them as tightly as you can without feeling uncomfortable or painful. And pay attention to that feeling of the tension. Hold that tension for a few seconds. Release the tension from your lower legs. Notice that feeling of relaxation. And do please continue to remember to breathe. If you notice that you're holding your breath, do take some breaths. Next, focus on the tension in your muscles in your upper leg and your pelvis. Tense those muscles. Squeeze as tightly as you can your thighs together. Make sure you feel the tension without the point of strain. Hold for a few seconds. Release. Release that tension from your muscles. Let that tension leave your muscles. Work your way up your body. Begin to tense your tummy and your chest. You can do this by sucking in your stomach. Squeeze harder and hold that tension. Try and hold it just for a little bit longer. Release. Let your body flop. Allow your body to go limp. How does that feel? Notice the difference between that relaxation. It's a little bit like carrying your heavy shopping or a heavy box. As soon as you put it down, oh, that feels great. The same as learning the tension around your muscles and what it feels like to relax them. Release the air slowly. Feel it leaving your lungs. Tense the muscles in your back. Bring your shoulders together behind you. Hold them tightly. Tense them as hard as you can without straining, and keep holding. Now release that tension. Feel that tension leaving your body and that new sense of relaxation, especially around those shoulders. When you're sat at your desk, as most of us are doing much more now, keep an eye on your back and your shoulders. Are they feeling tense? Are you uncomfortable? Are you getting headaches? If you are, tense up and relax. It's a very simple exercise to do just sitting at your desk. Tense up your arms, all the way from your hands to your shoulders. Make a fist and squeeze your arm. Tense it and hold it. And here comes the good bit. Release that tension from your arms and your shoulders. Notice the feeling of relaxation that you have in your fingers, in your hands, in your arms and your shoulders. Notice your arms. Are they feeling limp and at ease? Move up to your neck and your head. Tense your face and your neck by distorting your muscles around your eyes and your mouth. Once again, release that tension. Let your jaw drop. Again, notice that new feeling of relaxation. And finally, tense your entire body. Hold your body as tight as you can. Your feet, your legs, your tummy. Tense that chest, your arms, your head, your neck. Tense as hard as you can without straining or hurting yourself. Hold that tension. Hold that tension just for a few seconds longer. Release. Allow your whole body to go limp. Flop those arms, flop your head, your back, your legs, your neck. Pay attention to that feeling of relaxation. How different does it feel? Enjoy this last few seconds of feeling relaxed. Notice your breathing. We pay far too much attention to our breathing and we worry about it. We breathe quite naturally. Our body looks after us in that way. However, when we feel tense, when we are low, when we're anxious, when we're depressed, when we're trying to get to sleep, we'll breathe much more shallowly, or we'll take deep breaths. If you notice that you're doing that, concentrate on your breathing. Just notice how you're breathing. Breathe much more slowly. Begin to wake your body up by slowly moving your muscles. Adjust your arms and your legs. Have a walk around, have a move, have a stretch. And when you feel ready, open up your eyes. As I said, there's some information about further relaxation exercises. This is a really great one to do in bed when you're lying down. You don't have to go through your whole body. It might be more beneficial to you to pick on the areas that you do notice that you have tension. You might prefer just to tense the whole body and relax it. You might just prefer to tense your hands and relax it. The idea is noticing the difference between what is tension and what is relaxation. Tension takes a long time to build up in our bodies, and it's very often then when we have problems with aches and pains, and we may well go to the GP. If you get very good at starting to notice where you hold tension, tense it and then relax it, you'll be able to look after your muscles much easier and get onto that relaxation before those tense muscles do become a problem for you. I'm not sure how far. I think I've just about gone over time a little bit. I do hope that you found that relaxation helpful. And once again, if there's anything that you would like to ask myself or Lucy, I think perhaps it's better. I haven't given you my email, but if you want it, do contact Charlie and she'll pass anything on to me. You have Lucy's email. At this time, unless you want to refer yourself to options, I wouldn't bother with the Plymouth Options email. Just either contact Lucy or myself through Charlie, and we'll look at how we can help you in any way that we can. Thank you so much for your time today, and I do hope you found at least some of that helpful. All the very best to you. Thank you.
Jane and Lucy, thank you so much for sharing that insight that you both got around sleep, and also the relaxation session was fab. And thank you for braving the world of Zoom presentations and things like that. I think I could certainly relate when you were mentioning, sort of maybe not having the best sleep last night. I certainly maybe was worrying about a few things, like you were saying, Lucy, that were completely out of my control. But no, thank you both for your time, and you did excellent. You certainly did better than I did with regards to keeping to time. And I think you were due to finish at 10:50, so you're pretty much on the money.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So yeah, just before you go, sorry.
Of course, no, go for it.
Appreciate anybody's feedback, because we use that feedback and we really do read it. And the reason I know we do is because I'm the one that looks at the feedback. That's part of my role as well. So if you have any comments, good or bad, please do let us know. We don't take offence. We use them to make changes to how we do things and present things. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt you there, Craig.
Not at all, Jane. I think you're right. And we'll be sure to share any evaluation that we get in with you guys as well. And I think, like you said, Jane, this is the first time that maybe we're delivering this sort of information like this. In the past, we would have been doing it in person, and we would have developed it, in a way that it suited that environment. So I think, we're all very keen to hear people's thoughts and feelings about what worked well, but also if there's anything that we think could be done differently and would work better over this sort of remote virtual sort of forum. If you haven't seen, I know Charlie has added Jane's email address to the chat bar, so you can get that down there as well if you wanted to contact Jane direct. But again, thank you both to Jane and Lucy for your insight and your thoughts there around sleep and relaxation. And thank to those also that asked a few questions and added a few comments. I think again, this use of the chat bar is something that is new to all of us, and again, it might be that we tweak it slightly going forward. I know that about 5 minutes ago our final speaker kind of joined us. So Andy, can you hear me okay, and are you there?
I can hear you, Greg. Can
Fantastic.
You hear me?
I can hear you, which is great news, and I can see you too, which is fab. Andy, Andy is a member of my own Wellbeing Team, and Andy's kindly agreed to join us today to deliver a bit of an alcohol kind of session, alcohol awareness session. I know Andy also sent out some sort of kind of forum information, which included a bit of a quiz, and I know that's going to be part of what he takes us through kind of in the next 30-40 minutes. Andy, have you got the ability, and are you happy to share screens? Have you?
I think I am, Greg. I think I've worked it out on this little laptop.
Fab. If you're happy to start doing that now, I know when we were with Jane before, there was a bit of a delay, unfortunately. So it all got us all really worried. So we'll just double check that you can do it as well. And I know that I have got your presentation kind of ready to go on my laptop as well, should there be any
Okie doke.
But yeah, what I'll do is I'll shut up, I'll mute myself, and I'll hand over to you to move through. But if there's any technical issues, then I'll do my best to help.
How many of us are there here today?
I think there are 29, including you, or 29, including you, me, and everyone else. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, hello everybody. Great to see you all. Yes, I'm Andy Pratt from the Wellbeing Team, a colleague of Greg's, and got a few slides to run through in a moment on the subject of alcohol, sensible drinking. So please, any questions, I think you can put them on the comments as we go. And also at the end, I know Greg will help facilitate any discussion. So let's have a look at these quiz questions. I hope everybody might have received them beforehand, and I hope you might have had a go without trying to look up the answers on the internet. So I'm just going to get up the quiz questions now. Can everybody see those? Can everybody see the quiz questions?
Yeah, they've just appeared, Andy, so that's all
good. Oh, fantastic. Great. So it's just really just a warm-up, really. It's just to check, do we know, as informed members of the Wellbeing Forum, what the guidance is, question 1, for lower risk alcohol drinking? You got 5 options there. Any brave person going to put a comment up about how many units per week is the guidance for lower risk consumption? See any comments coming? I can see comments actually right now as I share this, but do I just move myself around here? Right. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll run through the answers because that's probably more easy. So I put down quite a few. The guidance on lower risk alcohol consumption did change a few years ago now, and it is now it's C, that 14 units per week. Now the guidance is the same for men and women, to keep it simple. Originally there was a higher if you like allocation for men, but really the health differences are pretty minimal. So now the message is 14 units per week is lower risk drinking. So that leads us to the question, is how much alcohol is in a unit, because it's always a little bit hard to work out. So we take a bottle of wine, average bottle of wine, well, 12.5% bottle of wine actually, it's perhaps one of the weaker ones on the market. How much wine is 1 unit of alcohol? Is it a large wine glass, 1 medium wine glass, small wine glass, half a medium wine glass? As we know, there's lots and lots of different wine glasses around. Well, the answer, I'm afraid, is half a medium wine glass is 1 unit of alcohol. So there's actually quite a lot of units, 7, 8 more in a bottle of wine, which is usually about 750 milliliters. So not a lot of wine. And then the third question, that's a bit obvious, but what are the main health risks to drinking alcohol? And there's a list I've got here from heart disease, liver disease, cancers, depression, strokes. And I think most people would be familiar with liver disease. So maybe some people did plump for that one, which I understand. But actually, it's all of the above. All of those health conditions are strongly linked to excessive drinking of alcohol over a period of time. Often you might say 20 years of medium risk drinking can increase your risk of some of these conditions, I'm afraid. Fourthly, though, I wanted to just touch base and ask how many adults in England actually don't drink. Sometimes it's one might get the impression if we watch soap operas or something, that everyone's at it, but this is not the case. So it's obviously these sort of statistics rely on big surveys of opinion, but the Health Survey 2016, the latest data, which is kind of accessible and reasonably robust, does suggest that the answer there under question 4 is C, around 19 to 20% of people don't drink. So a significant proportion of the population do not drink alcohol. However, if we move on to question 5, how many adults drink more than the lower risk guidance? And I've given you some options here, 13%, 21%, 35%. Actually, the correct answer is B. About 20% of adults do drink more than the lower risk guidance. Now it gets a bit more interesting. Question 6. Which age groups are the most likely to drink more than 14 units per week? And we've got 16 to 25-year-olds, the young people, the students, people more 25 to 40, 40 to 55, 55 to 70, over 75s. Well, interestingly, the people who are most likely to drink more than 14 units a week are people like me, between 55 and 70 years old. So we can be the most common drinkers at these high risk levels, which perhaps people might think, oh, it's all students, but no, that's not the case. And then which of the following groups, looking at population groups in a different way, question 7, are most likely to drink more than the government's lower risk guidance? And I've got adults from wealthier backgrounds, young people in higher education, adults from the most disadvantaged communities, adults from ethnic minority communities. And I wonder how many people got this one correct, because actually, again, the answer is it's adults from wealthier backgrounds, middle managers, senior managers, if you like, potentially earning over £40,000 a year. Such people tend to have more money and actually are more likely to drink more. So maybe challenging some stereotypes there. Question 8, though, which of those same population groups are more likely to experience alcohol-related harm related to their drinking? Again, if we look at the data, we then find that although the adults from wealthier backgrounds, they drink more or more likely to drink more than the lower risk, the worst health impacts, the negative health impacts, tend to be suffered most by C, adults from the most disadvantaged communities. And that's for the generic issues of poor health and health inequalities in poorer communities. Perhaps people have more stressful jobs, less access to healthcare, poorer housing, and all those things that can worsen well-being. So just some interesting questions there. I'm now going to try and get my slides up and just run through those. Here we go. Can everyone see those? Can you see those, Greg? Yep, good.
Not as yet, but they might appear in a minute.
Oh,
We've still got the quiz at the moment.
Just close that quiz, shall we?
Don't know whether you then need to
Sorry,
select.
Screen sharing stops the shared windows closed.
Yeah, just open the screen share again, and then I suppose select the presentation sort of box. It should pop back up the same way.
I've got my screen share. What have I done with it? Hang on a second.
That's all right, Andy.
Do you see it now? No.
Not yet.
Right, just try again. Sorry.
No, don't worry.
Sorry, puzzle me. Let me just get that up. So no joy, Greg.
What I'll do is I'll see if I can find yours.
Thank you. Sorry about this, everybody.
No, don't worry about it at all, Andy. It's the first time many of us are doing that. Can people see that at the moment?
We haven't been using Zoom so much, have we?
Yes, we can see it, Greg.
We can see that. Fab.
Oh,
so what I'll do.
Thank you very much.
No, I think this is. Yeah, and then you just tell me when you want me to kind of like
Thanks, Greg.
move on a slide, and I will do that for you. All right.
Brilliant, Greg. Well, let's move on to the next slide. Thank you. Just to promote discussion about alcohol and well-being today. So, and I've got to, maybe we can have some suggestions about what we can do in our jobs to promote less harmful drinking at the end. Let's see. Can we just move on to the next slide, please, Greg? Yeah, just to look again at prevalence of alcohol drinking that we, had touched on in the quiz, that on a weekly basis, from our last data we have, about 50% of adults do drink every week. And as I said earlier on, about 20% of adults don't drink at all. So it's a lot of us do drink, so it's a very big issue. Can we move on again, please, Greg? And this is a useful infographic from Public Health England, just visually displaying sort of a lot of the health issues that can arise from alcohol. So it's really affects many parts of our health potentially. If we consistently drink above the government lower risk guidance, obviously the risks increase the more we drink for a longer period of time. Thanks, Greg. Next slide, please. Just some data here that we do have several thousand deaths every year in the UK directly linked to alcohol consumption, but most of the deaths that are alcohol related are also linked in with other conditions. So they're often recorded as strokes and cancers, but often alcohol risk can play a role in this. So it is estimated that well over 1 million admissions in hospital were related to excessive alcohol consumption. If you look back a few years, 2015, 2016, and it has been historically, this rate has been going up in recent years, and 2/3 of these cases do tend to be associated with men. And of these hospital admissions, nearly half of them related to alcohol, are for younger patients, often, well, between 55 and 74, and very commonly for cardiovascular heart-related disease. So excessive drinking of alcohol is quite a major cause of ill health and reduced life expectancy. Regarding alcohol dependence, which is a more serious issue, obviously, the NHS estimates that up to 9% of men, adult men, and up to 4% of women may show signs of dependence. So there's a significant number of people who may be hooked, if you like, in some form or another. But really our main concern in the wellbeing team is those people who may be drinking consistently over the lower risk guidelines, but aren't dependent, but just maybe over the long term doing harm to their health. Could we move on, please? Right, thank you. So here's just a graphic to help us understand units a bit more. So a single measure of pub spirits, 25 millilitres, which is pretty small, is 1 unit. In terms of beer, a pint of weak beer, 3.6%, which is what you might call session beer, quite weak. That's 2 units, all the same. So that's, you don't want to have too many of those a week either. But if you have a strong beer, that's 5%, even more. That's many more units, 2.8 in this case. And as I said earlier on, the average glass you get in the pub will have probably 2 units, or if you get a large wine glass, has 3 units. So it's good to have a reasonable idea of alcohol units as you proceed, because it can be deceptive. Thanks, Greg. Next slide, please. So here's another representation of how many to drink. So looking at that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 glasses of wine per week. So it's not a huge amount. So it's just a little reminder to us to try and keep a running total of what we are drinking. As we all know, it can be a little bit easy for it to add up sometimes if we are drinkers. So hopefully people had time to look at these slides. I'm sure we can send you these slides should you wish to look at them in more detail later. Next one, please, Greg. So just to state clearly the health messages that are recommended, we're advised to drink lower risk is no more than 14 units a week or 2 to 3 units per day, but also to try and have 2 consecutive drink alcohol-free days per week. This allows the kidney, the liver to recover, the body to recover somewhat. So that's advised as well. And as I'm trying to emphasize, drinking consistently above this guidance, harm can increase as time passes. Even if you never feel you get drunk, excuse me, or indulge in binge drinking. So, in example, drinking above the low risk for 10 years can start to increase your risks of alcohol-related diseases. And the binge drink, the definition we use in public health is to have twice the daily limit. So that would be, say, up to 6 units per day, which is perhaps getting you a bit tipsy. So you don't want to do that too often. Thanks, Greg. Next slide, please. Thanks. So just more on drinking, just to explain the sociology of this a bit, if you like. Those who earn more than £40,000 a year are actually more likely to be frequent drinkers and to binge on the heaviest day compared with lowest earners. And they do typically drink more alcohol, higher earners, but experience less alcohol-related harm, actually, for perhaps some of the reasons I mentioned earlier on. Regarding young people, they are less likely to drink, actually, now than other age groups. But it can be true that when young people drink, sometimes they can have bigger binge sessions than older people. So perhaps that explains some of the stereotypes of media coverage we get sometimes. Next slide, please, Greg. And I wanted to just remind us, why do people drink? You know, why do we bother? And we should be aware of its benefits, actually. And I think it's one of the things we do in a social context. I think in these days, when we're on a Zoom call, obviously, because it's not really safe for us all to meet in the same room, this just reminds us of how social contact is so important for well-being. So obviously we're all dealing with that at the moment as a society, but alcohol has got a very strong traditional role in being part of social interaction in many different cultures. It loosens inhibitions for better or for worse, of course. Another reason people drink is, of course, influence of our peers and cultural norms. It can be seen as representing being on holiday, leisure, celebration, even status. Of course, another big factor about why do people drink is, can you get hold of it? Availability. And it is a fact that alcohol is now more available than ever before. As when I was a lad growing up, well, we got pubs closing at 10 now. It was pretty much the same, and you didn't have all your off licenses. So now there's been an explosion, actually, in alcohol availability in the last 40 years, and it's now much more affordable. So that's another factor. Alcohol is much more affordable now in the 2000s than it was back in 1980, 61% in fact. And we can see the evidence of that with all the adverts and the marketing. So there's many strong influences around alcohol. It's easy for many of us to get sucked in more than we might want to. Like everything else with our health, you know, we can get real benefits from drinking, enjoying company with others, but it's a question of balance. Thanks, Greg. With the next slide, please. So I'm just trying to think here about some issues that might come up of interest to us in a Wellbeing at Work forum. And why should a business or employer care? Well, obviously, alcohol misuse can contribute to poor performance, poor morale, staff sickness. You know, often alcohol can be linked to staff having to take time off work. And drinking culture can be linked strongly to working culture. And there, one's thinking of perhaps Friday night in the pub. In the city of London in days gone by, of course, that all the pubs would be packed at the end of the working week. Sometimes, again, peer pressure can kick in and you go and have your drink after work, so everybody else does. So it's a live issue for employers. And I think we do need to note that high achievers in organisations and businesses, high earners again, can still have drinking problems. So it applies to everybody, really. And last but not least on this little list, workplaces can be great opportunities for us to raise the issue that are people concerned about their drinking? Would they like some advice? Are they thinking about their drinking, etc.? So from a public health point of view, it's great to work on this forum with you because it's a way in to reach people with some of our messages. Thank you, Greg. So what sort of tools are out there to help us promote healthy drinking? I just wanted to, this is possibly a little bit out of date, this slide, but we have a form or a process, if you like, that's available digitally or as a sort of a paper form, a leaflet, even a scratch card called Audit C, which is not a very snappy title. It's a series of questions we can ask people. So perhaps you might have someone and you might think, so and so, you know, I know they're out down the pub again. I'm just concerned about their drinking. So I might give them this form and say, have you seen this? Would you like to answer these questions? And there's two series of questions. And the first one is just about how much people drink, and should people be at risk of higher or more than the lower risk drinking. You score a few points, you go over to the second series of questions, which starts asking questions like, is alcohol affecting your sleep? Or do you sometimes wake up and not remember what you've done? Those sorts of things, which can be warning signs to any of us that we ought to just review our habits. So the Audit C is a useful tool that we can let you have copies of, that you can leave lying around staff canteen, or you can send to people, or you can do verbally. It's a tool to help aid discussion about alcohol and draw out some of the issues. And the way we talk about alcohol-related guidance is in terms of risk: lower risk, increasing risk, higher risk, possible dependence. Those are the key stages, really. And so we're trying to, in public health, promote lower risk drinking as the norm, because that really is the best approach for public health in the long term. Not advocating people shouldn't drink at all, perhaps for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier on. We have in the past, and we may do again, run courses focusing on alcohol, identifying when there's a problem and delivering brief advice. So in a way, I'm talking about some of these health messages here about how we can, all of us, without being health professionals, give brief advice, share brief advice on healthier drinking. And hopefully we'll be able to offer more training courses, including face-to-face in the future, on these kind of subjects to the forum, including things to do with healthy conversation skills, we sometimes call it, which is all about how to raise health issues in a motivational way with people. It's also just finally to say that it is estimated that for every 7 or 8 people you might have a word with about their drinking, one of them will reduce their drinking after brief advice or a brief intervention. So it's really, really worth doing, actually. It's very cost efficient. Thank you, Greg. Excuse me. And what we mean by brief advice, a brief intervention, is when another person is displaying empathy, giving a bit of brief support on a subject that can be sensitive or we might not tend to want to think about, even in a shorter period as 2 or 3 minutes, it can boost our own motivation and understanding for improving our health. And it's about asking open questions of someone is, how do you feel about your drinking? Encourage them to give an answer rather than the yes or no, not saying to them, do you think you drink too much? They might say yes or no. You might ask, how do you feel about your drinking? And it perhaps encourages someone to just come out with some more of their feelings and motivations. To summarize what I mean, we're delighted when our wellbeing champions, members of the forum, etc., feel confident and able in situations to give a nudge to someone, listen to what they say, and then perhaps summarize back to that person what you're hearing. So you might have Mr. Blogs, oh, I see you're saying that you do sometimes drink a bit to excess, and you'd like not to do that too often, and you're wondering about what top tips that might be available to help you reduce your drinking when you're in a busy pub session. So really, this is a sort of wellbeing champion's role. Thanks, Greg. Next slide. Yeah, and it's not about telling people what to do. That really has been shown not to really have a good effect. We're not talking about making health assessments of people or being a counsellor, indeed. Or we're also not saying that by having these conversations with other people, we're not claiming we're experts or perfect or that we don't drink, etc. It is just really just friendly human interaction, but in a positive way. Thank you, Greg. Next slide, please. Just to say about in Plymouth, what are the data shows us that historically the city of Plymouth has had higher than the English average data or statistics for alcohol specific hospital admissions for under 18s, which is always been a little bit concerning, and indeed alcohol related hospital admissions for men and women. Also, we've had higher than average occurrence for people who binge drink, and finally for employees who work in bars. So it's been an important part of our economy locally. Obviously, at the moment we live in exceptional times, but it's just interesting to note that Plymouth, in comparison with other areas of Devon, has perhaps got more alcohol-related issues to deal with. Thank you, Greg. Next slide, please. Now, just certainly for today, I just wanted to look at the emerging evidence about the pandemic we're now experiencing and how is that affecting drinking. So pubs have been closed, but sales of alcohol have been going up from the shops. How's it worked out in the wash? So there's no very robust data yet. Just a health warning, actually, on alcohol statistics. Generally, like many other areas of healthy lifestyles, we do often rely on surveys and people telling us what they do, whether it's about what they eat, how they sleep, their drinking, etc. So there's obvious caveats there. People might not always want to tell the truth, but if you get enough data in, you can start to see trends. So I think there's been about 2 bigger surveys so far about drinking since the pandemic started in March, or the lockdown rather. And the evidence does seem to suggest that about 40% of people who drink alcohol may have increased alcohol consumption in this pandemic period. And a couple of reasons we've given there. 27% felt isolated, maybe another 29%, a third of them felt depressed. And the evidence suggests that it's existing higher risk drinkers, people drinking over the 14 units per week, more likely to do extra drinking. In contrast, maybe a third of drinkers have reduced consumption, perhaps gone a bit of a health kick, done more exercise, but they did tend to be the lower risk drinkers in the first place. And we shouldn't forget, of course, which perhaps no surprise, that people with alcohol-related health issues are at greater risk of complications from COVID-19 if they become infected. So that's perhaps no surprise. I think looking back at this data, as we all hope normal life might resume more in the future, perhaps we should be interested in colleagues and their welfare. I'm sure we are, because if some people are working at home or at home a lot more and drinking more, and without that social context, which tends to be one of the main reasons we drink, that is perhaps a danger sign that they may develop bad habits, if you like, and unhealthy habits. So I think we're going to need, as wellbeing champions, to be very aware about alcohol and many other issues over the coming months and years. Thank you, Greg. Next, I think there's one more slide. Oh yeah, just some top tips here from the NHS when you are drinking. I mean, obviously some of these are from before going out to a pub, which are still open, but still worth making a note of these. That if you're going out for a drinking celebration or celebration, even perhaps it's online, make a plan before you start drinking, set a limit or a budget. If you're trying to not drink that extra pint, tell your friends. You'd be surprised. They shouldn't take the mickey, they should give you some support. Take it a day at a time when you try and change your habits, little increments. So if you think, well, I'm drinking far too much wine each day. Perhaps just lower your consumption rather than try and chuck the bottle out and suffer a bit the next day. When you do take it a little bit at a time, every day you succeed in reducing your consumption, it's a success. So it's a kind of psychological trick, if you like, but it works. Try smaller sizes of glasses. This is like the same with healthier eating. Smaller dinner plates, smaller wine glass, same principle. We drink and eat with our eyes, so we think we're satisfied when the glass is finished. And glasses, like plates, have got bigger and bigger in recent years. So I advise you to get some smaller wine glasses in. Stay hydrated. A glass of water before alcohol, in between alcohol. That is all a way of reducing the ill effects of alcohol. I think this is one more slide now, Greg, which is probably our final one. Oh yeah, just some resources. We've still got great stuff online. You've heard from Plymouth Options today, and I've just looked at some of the other things we do have generically. We're trying to offer. We have started our Walking for Health groups. You might think, why is he mentioning that? But walking groups are always very good for getting some activity for people. We're doing them now in a socially distanced way, but that can be a diversionary activity. I think, Greg, at the very last slide, we have 5 ways to well-being. Thank you. So I just thought I might finish with this, which perhaps chimes with your options session, that drinking a glass of wine after work can be very pleasant, but we can also give ourselves some pleasantness by applying, as we try, 5 a day in our food, 5 a day for the mind, to connect with people around us in some way, keep learning, keep the brain active, being physically active, taking notice of what's going on in life, being mindful, as you just had a session on, and being nice to other people. And evidence shows that this is the secret, one of the secrets to hopefully supporting good mental health. And sometimes we can try and use alcohol as a shortcut for that, can't we? And I think we know that doesn't always work. Greg, I've gone on an awful long time now. I can't see any comments, but I'll try and change it on my screen. But over to you, and thank you very much.
No, thank you, Andy. Absolutely fascinating. I always find like information around obviously alcohol quite interesting. Historically, maybe my focus was always around tobacco control, and I think like your early slides were kind of talking about, I think sometimes we kind of think about binge drinking and we think about kind of alcohol dependence as being the issue, and it's maybe only in the more recent years that obviously people are beginning to be a little bit more aware of, like you said, sometimes wealthy professionals that are kind of drinking to excess without maybe even knowing. So yeah, thank you for your time, Andy, and thank you for that presentation. Like we've said with the others, what I'll do this afternoon, or member of the team will do, is we'll email all of the presentations to everyone that's attended. So that will then enable you guys to be able to kind of access any of the links and the things and the information that's within those presentations. I think all 3 had quite a lot of information in there, so it'd be good for people to kind of have a little look at that. I'm just going to quickly look at the chat bar just to see whether there's anything coming in there. So yeah, actually it was a question from both Angie and Natalie about what I've just mentioned. So yeah, what we'll make sure, guys, is that the presentations get sent out, so that way you can have that information readily available. If you want to pass it on to colleagues that obviously weren't able to attend today, then you can do that as well. And Andy, would you be happy if people were able to kind of contact you direct should they have any questions?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you're happy, Andy, if you can see the chat bar, if you just pop your email address in there, and then that way people can make a note of it. And then, yeah, if you need to get in touch with Andy, if you wanted any more information, then you can do that. So there's no other questions in the chat bar at the moment. I'm just wondering whether anyone had any kind of general kind of well-being at work, well-being champion questions. We've got kind of 3 or 4 minutes left. So was there anything that anyone wanted to sort of ask about? Obviously we've got Jenny and Charlie here as well, so I don't know whether there's anything that anyone wanted to ask now, or whether we're all happy that we can bring the meeting to a close, really. Okay. What I'll do, if I can quickly get organized enough, is quickly share my screen one last time. And quickly pop this back up. I don't know whether people can see that as yet. If I go to the bottom slide, just to give you those contact details again. So like I said, be very, very keen to hear from anyone directly. If you have any questions or you just wanted a conversation about wellbeing at work, wellbeing champions, or anything that you've heard this morning. Like Jane mentioned, we're very, very keen to get people's feedback. So please also complete the evaluation forms that were sent out to you pre-course. Once we've received those evaluation forms back, we will get certificates sent out to people electronically, just a certificate of attendance. Obviously, this is the first of likely to be many sort of virtual forums. We don't really know at this stage, obviously, where we stand with regards to returning to kind of what you would describe as, I guess, a mass gathering. Certainly at this stage, we are planning to run both, well, the conference, as we saw earlier, and all 3 forums in 2021 in a similar way. So, you know, because of that, we're really keen to kind of hear what you guys want to know about, to hear you know, whether you feel it could be presented differently, whether the event was too long, whether it was, you know, could have been done with more time. It really is over to you guys to sort of to help guide us around how we do these going forward. But thank you all for your patience. Thank you all for sort of, I suppose, you know, joining us and obviously experiencing one of our Wellbeing at Forums for the first time virtually. Thank you to our speakers again, Andy, Lucy, and Jane. Your time and your input is really, really appreciated. And thank you also to Olivia, who from the chamber has been in the background, sort of just making sure everything runs as smoothly as it did. Thank you also to Charlie and Jenny, who have just done so much work over the last 6 to 8 months around wellbeing at work and wellbeing champions, have been staying in touch with people, updating the website. You know, I think, you know, challenging times like we faced, like Andy said, and like, you know, that kind of clang, you know, that 5 ways to wellbeing, we've got to stay in contact with each other. So do stay in touch. Like I say, drop me an email, drop the generic email account, some messages. And yeah, thank you again. And have a lovely rest of the day.
Bye.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks all.
I think that's everybody out now. Oh, where's Greg gone?
I think Greg's left.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, Greg's left.
Oh, right.
He's literally.
How do we get him back in? Do you have to send him a text? I sent him a chat saying, can you stay on?
Yeah, he won't see that now. He's not in the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you have his number where you could just give him a text and say, come back on.
I've just sent him a text. Whew. So, we'll wait for him to come back. Don't know if he's disappeared or not. Are we still recording? Or should we press pause on the